I love when a car brand comes along and says, forget everything you know about the previous versions of a car, this is the new one. That is what Hyundai have done with the new Santa Fe. They've snuck into Land Rover, borrowed some copybooks, put certain aspects of that car into this, and come up with a much more rugged looking 7-seater Santa Fe than we've ever known before. And that's before we've even discussed the back of the car, which I know is going to divide some of you. What about this little hack? So there's a grab handle that you can use to either access a roof box if you're camping or you're putting stuff on top of the roof rails, or for helping get in and out of the third row, because this has got plenty of space for up to 7 people, or you can configure it with 6 seats if you prefer. What is very useful in the back of this car is the fact that you can electronically have a bit of assistance from this part of the seat, so you can bring this back, you can properly have it wedged up against your knees. I'm not sure why you would, but there's still okay leg room for an adult in the back of the car when you're in the back seat. This area, I mean, it's commendable. It has USB-C, it has air vents, it has drinks holders, but it's not soft when you're putting your arm down in this part of the car. But the actual headlining in the roof feels really premium. It's a lovely job there. And there's Isofix in both of these rear seats, so you get 4 Isofix in the back alone. I know what you're thinking about the rear. It is fairly mad looking. Why are the lights so low down? Well, let me explain. Oh, and by the way, it has a digital camera now in the back for the rear view mirror. 725 litres, which is pretty outstanding. Better than a Kia Sorento, for example. One thing that is strange though, the parcel shelf, which is flexible and clips in easily and does all the things you wanted to do, can't fit under here in the boot because the PHEV version just has stuff here. And from what I can tell, Hyundai are just bringing the PHEV version to Ireland. There is a 1.6 if you're watching this in the UK, for example. It's fair to say the boot is not the prettiest that we've ever seen in a vehicle. However, there's method in perhaps their madness. The lights are so low down for the design of the car to have these huge boot struts, which allows you to have such a wide opening to get things in and out of. And this car is all about practicality for you and your family. So if you look at style and put that slightly down the pecking order and say, but hey, it's got 725 litres and all this space, and even with the third row up, there's still decent shopping, weekly shopping space in here, that's kind of where they've gone with it. But you might have to close your eyes every time you look at the back of it. Or maybe you love it. Let me know in the comments down below. That's what they're there for, after all. This Santa Fe actually shares the underpinnings with the previous version, but they've managed to squeeze a bit of extra space. It's a little bit taller, it's a little bit longer, and the wheelbase has also improved ever so slightly. Now, it might only be a couple of inches, but they've still managed to do that. There's also a very handy drawer down here now for keeping things belonging to kids tucked away. And don't worry, there's still places to charge things on the edges of these seats. And the armrest can open from the rear, also giving people in the back access to the main storage area, which is really, really clever. There's no glass roof in this version of the Calligraphy spec version. I get the sense that they're going to bring in one more trim, but as I filmed today, details of that have not been confirmed. There's hooks at the back here for jackets, heated seats in this version, window blinds to keep the kids happy, and some storage at the back of these seats. And you can adjust these if you need more space in the rear, as well as this side of the bench also. And the armrest has got just 2 straightforward cup holders, nothing fancy for tablets or anything like that, but it is a good angle where you can actually rest your arm. But that flip on the back of the armrest, really clever. Where we now see massive change in the Santa Fe is up front. Even the steering wheel, it has the Morse code of the 4 dots for N, but really you could probably say, is that an overfinch wheel, or am I just pleased to see you? Now we've got 2 charging plates for devices, loads of space for drinks, a really huge armrest, like really good. Here's a strange one, UVC filter. Press a button, pop your device in here, and it will sterilize it. Now, it does warn you about ultraviolet rays when that's on, and I just don't know how well that lid is from protecting you from ultraviolet rays. It's a bit of a strange one. There is a bit of a floating shelf going along here for devices, and then an average looking space for your glove box. And then in here, you've got a window breaker, should you get into trouble. Hopefully that won't happen. Yes, there is a large screen now. Again, looks a bit like a Range Rover, but there are still some physical knobs on it, so you can quickly change the temperature of the air. But there are haptic buttons to access the heated steering wheel, the air-cooled seats, or heated seats for that matter. So that can be a bit hit and miss sometimes. There's hill descent. You can go into snow mode. You've got an overview of the car and a really high quality rear view camera. You can use that when you're in standard mode. It'll give you a level of display of how much charge is in your device when you're charging it, according to 1, 2 or 3 green lights down here. The very familiar Hyundai system that we've been used, very similar to Kia as well. Generally there's no issues with it, no bugs, no messing around. Built-in nav, but also there is CarPlay, obviously, even a car wash mode, which will tuck everything that it needs to tuck in for you. If you're changing direction with your indicator, you can get a camera that comes on here when you flick that on, so it gives you a blind spot backwards. Gear selector is now down here. We have electronic adjustability on the steering wheel, and it's memory, so when you jump in, it'll adjust to whatever seating position you've left the vehicle in. And yeah, it's just a better use of all the center space here because there's no gear to contend with. Now, it is quite dark and black. Some of the tan interiors that you can get with the car really do brighten it up. But it's not premium feeling, but it's really good quality materials, and it is a huge step up from what we have experienced to date in a Santa Fe. The plug-in hybrid version of this car is really smooth and really quiet. If you use the hybrid with the petrol engine and the battery, you're going to get about 5 litres per 100 kilometres, maybe actually better. And then obviously you can drive around in 0 emissions for about 50 to 60 kilometres. There's front wheel drive and 4-wheel drive, and the 2.5 PHEV, that's about 226 brake horsepower. You can tow up to 1,500 kilos towing capacity, but just check your specific model, because that can change between 4-wheel drive and obviously PHEV options, so just double checking all that stuff before you go ordering. And like, for the size of this car, it's not as obvious when you're driving it. Yes, it's huge to look at, it's got serious road presence, but actually driving this thing, it's very smooth. I'm on a good road today, but like, if you throw around the weight of it, yeah, it feels a little bit, and it's just so comfortable. There's all sorts of driving aids peering at you, safety systems, blind spot, overview cameras, rear cross traffic monitoring, frontal collision, driver attention monitor constantly looking at you. It will beep if you don't turn off the speed sign thing, but it will still let you have the option of the speed sign displayed with the beep off. This car has a head-up display, and when I reveal the price at the end of the video, it's not cheap, but actually what you're getting spec-wise is vast. I really don't like, okay, glass roof, that is, to my experience, the only thing that you would need or want to spec on a new Santa Fe. Maybe the 6 versus 7 seat option also. Now when you floor it, it probably should be quicker in terms of acceleration, but as a thing that is meant to get everyone home safely and from A to B safely, it does a great job of that. And you kind of have to accept that the driving dynamics in a car like this may not be the top priority when it comes to designing the car. And actually the fuel economy now, this is a mix now of petrol. I don't have it in pure EV mode just to try and preserve the battery a little bit. it's 4.4 litres per 100 kilometers. And that is as good as anything you'll get from Toyota. Well, seriously, for the size of it, when you look around and you look in the rear and you go, that's all mine too. But then to drive it, it just doesn't feel like that. And that's the most complimentary part I can probably cover on the driving dynamics. Anyway, I will have a longer, week-long overview of this car in a little while. I'll get a better vibe of what I like, what I don't like. But first impressions, price aside, which I'm going to tell you now, it's pretty good. It is radically different to what we've seen before. We don't get this light bar in Europe because of EU regs, but elsewhere in the world you will get an additional strip right across the front here. These H designs into the headlights also. You'll get about 50 to 60 kilometers on a single charge. That will be enough for a lot of people's daily commute. So you could drive this car and not have to put any fuel into it for a long time. But to get the car and worry about the fuel later, you're going to have to spend €70,000. And that, my friends, is a lot of money, but in this case, you're getting a lot of car. Let me know what you think, particularly of the design of this new Santa Fe, and I'll talk to you in the next one.